I read a study once where psychologists took a group of students who tested on the same level and split them into two classes. One class was told they were advanced and were challenged and praised for their intelligence. The other class was told they were remedial and were given easier tasks and criticized for their failings. At the end of the study, they retested the students and found the advanced group scored higher than they had coming in, while the remedial group scored lower. Ethical issues aside, the study proved that perception affected reality. Students fit into the negative and positive molds they were subjected to. I learned about this study in college when I took an early childhood education elective, hoping it would help me become a good foster parent. That study turned out to be more relevant than I could ever have imagined when I welcomed my first child into my home. Her name was Alexis, and she had a sister, Oakley. In a sort of bastardized parallel to the study, Oakley was raised being told she was descended from angels and doted on, while Alexis was told she was the daughter of demons and left to rot. I won't go into any details beyond telling you Alexis was locked in a basement until the day her sister slipped up at school and revealed her existence to a teacher. The teacher contacted the authorities. Alexis was rescued, the parents were arrested, and the children were put into foster care. The sisters were like day and night. Oakley was a plump little blonde-haired girl with a big, bright smile and a happy spirit. And Alexis was a gaunt, barely communicative recluse who scowled and snarled at everyone. When the social worker told me Alexis' story, I offered to take her in. I was determined to give her all the love and attention she deserved. What can I say? I was full of blind optimism and desperately wanted to help a little girl who'd gone through hell. I signed the papers and was told to wait in the hall while they brought her out. As soon as I left the office, I found her sitting on the bench, legs swinging. She looked downright feral with her head of matted brown hair, yellow teeth, and tattered clothes. "Alexis?" I asked softly. We locked eyes and she stared at me with the desperate stare of a shelter cat. I held out my hand. She took it, and I brought her home. I quickly became disenchanted with my foster care fantasy. I'd imagined mentoring, emotional breakthroughs, and deep conversations about life. All things I'd wanted when I was on the receiving end of the system. I wanted to offer better than what I'd been given. But the truth is, it's not as easy as it looks. Alexis was difficult in ways I expected, like refusing to eat anything red one day and not eating her favorite food another because the carrots touched it. But she was also difficult in ways I wasn't equipped to handle. I'd wake up some mornings to find demonic symbols carved into the walls. She'd sometimes babble in some made-up language. No, not Latin. She'd hoard candles and lighters under her bed, things like that. I knew it was all her conditioning. She'd been called a demon all her life, so now she acted like one. But it was unsettling. No amount of love or devotion seemed to improve her behavior. Things escalated as the weeks wore on. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sounds of furniture being dragged across the floor. It was slow at first, as though an attempt was being made to keep quiet. But as I got up to investigate, the scraping became louder, rushed, more frantic. I walked down the hallway with a flashlight in hand and followed the ruckus to its source, Alexis' room. There, I put my ear to the door and listened carefully. Maybe it was just my tired, sleepy brain imagining things or the echo, but I could have sworn it sounded like there were multiple objects being pushed at once. I opened the door to ask Alexis what she was doing, and the scraping immediately stopped. To my surprise, I found her sitting in bed, eyes wide and staring at me like an owl. More surprising was the fact that every single piece of furniture in her room had been moved. Not just a few inches here and there. Both her dressers were now on the opposite wall. Her bed had been rotated and pushed against the window. Her vanity had been knocked over and dragged halfway across the room, and her big metal toy chest now rested against the door. You have to understand, I was dealing with a frail, sickly little girl. The strength it would take to move all that furniture, I had trouble getting it in there without help. For a child to do it at all, let alone this skinny, malnourished child, it would have taken Herculean strength or something. I wondered if this was part of her conditioning somehow. Maybe it took root so deep that she was able to perform inhuman feats, like a mother lifting a car to save her dying child. I didn't want to scold her because it was her room, and I interpreted rearranging the furniture as a sign that she was making herself at home. I didn't want to stifle her ability to take control of her environment, you know. This was important to her. I gently told her I'd help her in the morning if she wanted to move anything else, and then went back to bed. I was a little less understanding when some of my kitchen knives went missing. I tried every technique in the book to get them back. I asked nicely. I said they could be returned anonymously. I promised there would be no repercussions. I bribed. I lied about their emotional value. I explained the dangers. But nothing worked. I even ransacked her room but couldn't find them. To this day, I still have no idea where she hid them. Another night, I woke up to her standing over me, her dark eyes reflecting the faintest glimmer of the streetlight outside, making her look even more owl-like. "What's wrong, Alexis?" I asked as I twisted around to turn on the bedside lamp. "Did you have a bad dream?" I was ready to pull her into bed and comfort her, but when I turned back around, she was gone. No footsteps, no squeal of a door opening and closing. She was just gone. I got out of bed and checked up on her, but she was fast asleep. One morning I woke to a cold bedroom. There was something muggy in the air, making it hard to breathe. My sheets were uncomfortably damp. I opened my eyes to the dark room and swung my legs over the edge of the bed. As my feet touched the ground, I felt wetness. I remember thinking, blood. I imagined a pool of it beneath my feet, trickling out from a dead, mutilated animal stuffed under my bed. Thankfully, there was no such thing. I think that's when I realized Alexa's conditioning was so intense that it was transferring onto me, making me think the most ridiculous thoughts. I flicked the lights on and thought there was no blood in my room. There was something just as strange. My entire bedroom was covered in dew. Yes, like on grass in the morning. It was everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, the curtains. It peppered my dresser and overtook my mirror. I have no idea how it happened. My windows were closed and my heating was on, so I have no idea how all that humidity accumulated in my room. I spent the day cleaning up and running fans to prevent mold. After that, I had nightmares almost every night. I dream of waking up and seeing Alexa's owl-like eyes watching down at me from the ceiling, from the walls, from under the bed, and from the very back of my closet. I knew it was wrong to let her tragic past influence me, but I felt some relief in knowing that's all it was. We were both normal students told we were in a remedial classroom. I just had to keep telling myself that there was nothing wrong. Even when the dreams became so vivid, they bled into my waking life. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to use the restroom and feel her presence behind me, or her breath in my ear, or catch a glimpse of her running down the hall when I knew damn well she was fast asleep. God damn it, we were normal. I wasn't going to let myself be poured into her negative mold. I was here to reshape her, not the other way around. One of the creepiest things to me was what you see in every horror movie involving kids: her drawings. It was never anything quite as unsettling as, say, demonic faces scrawled across all the pages of a notebook, or an axe murder scene or anything like that. But every time she drew herself into a picture, she drew a kind of dark halo around her body. It wasn't threatening or anything, but it spoke volumes about how she perceived herself, you know? I think that was the true horror to me, knowing that even months later, her parents still had such a huge negative impact on how she viewed herself. After months of unconditional love, she still saw herself as a monster. She still snarled at strangers. She still lashed out at me if I tried talking to her. She still moved all manner of furniture at night. She still mumbled in that incomprehensible tongue. Last night, as I sat in bed thinking about what to try next to help her, I had an idea. This little girl had lost everything. She'd been uprooted from her life, lost her home, as bad as that home was, her parents, her sister, and that got me thinking. Maybe I could arrange a play date with her sister. Maybe seeing a familiar face would make her feel better. Which brings us to today. I contacted the agency this morning. I introduced myself and asked about Alexa's sister, Oakley. I intended to start with small talk and ease into my request. I asked how Oakley was, but I got a cold reception from the woman on the phone. She asked me why I wanted to know, and I was really put off by the brash tone in her voice. I explained I'd been fostering her sister and was wondering if they could meet up. I explained I thought it would be good for Alexis to be around her sister a bit, provided the other foster family was okay with the reunion. There was a long silence on the line before I heard drawers opening and closing, followed by the shuffling of papers. "Sorry, who did you say you were again?" she asked. I let out a nervous laugh. There was something off in the tone of her voice, something that wove my vocal cords and esophagus into a tight braid. I shakily gave her my name again. Papers shuffled. She asked me to repeat. I did. She seemed hesitant, as though unsure whether she could tell me, but she did. You left before we gave you Alexis. We thought you changed your mind. She's with a different family. What she said next was a blur as my mind raced to understand. Had I taken the wrong child? But then, what about all the weird happenings around my house? In a haze, I asked who I was fostering, and was told I didn't have a foster child. I protested, but she checked, and all the foster kids were accounted for. I don't know who or what is sleeping in Alexa's bedroom right now. The psychologist's study never mentioned there was a third room.